All right. Hey, everybody. I got a new series starting. It's called Pixel Therapy. And before I start broadcasting on Discord, I wanted to just explain a little bit what Pixel Therapy is all about. And this is from my Discord Pixel Therapy description. It says, Welcome to Pixel Therapy. Excuse me. We're excited to launch a brand new space where gaming meets healing. Pixel Therapy is more than just a Discord channel, podcast, playlist, and text community. It's a growing hub dedicated to exploring how video games can be a powerful source of therapy, connection, and emotional support in everyday life. Here's what you'll find: podcast episodes, deep dives into the intersection of gaming and mental wellness. We'll share real stories, research backed insights, and personal reflections on how games can help us cope, connect, and grow. Curated playlists, music inspired by the emotional side of gaming. Whether you need to chill, reflect, or recharge, we've got your soundtrack covered. Active text channels. Talk about your favorite games, share how gaming helps you, or just hang out with people who get it. Live events and guest talks featuring experts in mental health, game developers, and members of the gaming community who use games as a lifeline and form of support. So, whether you're a hardcore gamer, a casual player, or someone just curious about healing power of pixels, you're welcome here. Join us, share your story, and let's press start on something truly meaningful. All right. So, we are going to go ahead and start the event on Discord. Let's see. Start. Mm-hmm. 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 Doom 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 boom. Starting the event. All right. Never really used the event in Discord, but we're gonna definitely go there. All right. Let's see. Do I have sound? I do have sound on Discord. There's nobody in there yet, but what happens is they'll come into Discord, file in. They're invited if they want to, and they'll be privy to the presentation. So the presentation is as such: Healing Through Pixels, the therapeutic power of video games for PTSD, SUD, and antisocial disorders. So, introduction: The Unexpected Healer. Well, welcome. Today we'll explore how video games can be more fun. They can be healing tools for mental health as well. Video games are often viewed as just mindless entertainment, and that's the stigma that comes with video games. But what if they could heal minds as well as entertain? We're going to focus today on the effects of video games on PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, SUD, substance use disorders, and some antisocial disorders. So, first off, you have to let's first understand the challenges faced by people with PTSD, substance use disorders, and antisocial disorders. For PTSD, sometimes they suffer flashbacks, hypervigilance, or emotional numbing. For substance use disorders, people suffer from constant relapses, anxiety, cravings. And for people with antisocial disorders, there's some emotional disconnect, impulsivity, and in most cases, isolation. So, the science of play, why games work. So, what makes games therapeutic? Reward systems, immersion, and connection. So, let's break that down. Um, Reward systems, the dopamine regulation. Reward systems stabilize moods. Cognitive engagement. Games stimulate focus, social connection. It's safe, when used correctly, safe, low risk social interactions. And narrative therapy, story based projection and processing. So, PTSD in virtual worlds. Game like Tetris can reduce trauma flashbacks because of the high levels of concentration and organization that you have to do. VR games simulate safe environments for processing trauma. So Tetris can reduce flashbacks by having the person like hyper focused and vigilant on doing these puzzle based games. VR therapy simulates safe trauma exposure. An example would be they have this thing called Virtual React for veterans that are suffering from PTSD. And what it is it's exactly as I said before. It gives you trauma exposure in a controlled environment. When you're immersed in it, the brain, you're in the situation, but yet because you know that you are in a virtual reality, you have control of the situation. So it can help you work on some coping mechanisms, because you feel that you have more control than in a real life scenario. So gaming can act as a substitute high as well, helping players build healthier habits and reduce isolation. So games replace the reward of substances. It reduces the same kind of dopamine that substances would give you. And during this gameplay, it can help you identify triggers, and you can practice and rehearse the coping mechanisms. With games. Once again, you're in a make believe environment, but you're immersed in it, so you can recognize these triggers that you might have a little more rapidly and be able to deal with them and develop coping mechanisms outside of being actually in real life scenarios. And social gaming reduces relapse risks just because you're socializing and adapting to a community. You are you're not out there exposed in an environment where you're surrounded by the choice of like passing by a bar or going through being around situations that would normally trigger you. Let's see, what else do we have? Antisocial disorders. Games build empathy. Story-driven and cooperative games teach communication and emotional awareness. So antisocial disorders, you can learn empathy through gameplay. Role-playing games, RPGs, enhance empathy and moral reasoning. Examples are games like Life is Strange and The Last of Us, Journey. Cooperative gameplay builds social skills. Um, Case studies. Project now. This word, there's a French pronunciation, there's a Greek pronunciation. Areti is, I have to look more into it, but it's actually a study. The word in Greek, it comes from Greek or French, but it means a full realization. And Project R, I have to look into this one a little bit more, but it was designed for. It's a real-world example of a therapeutic game. It helps users build resilience and awareness. It develops social skill and self-awareness, and the results have been better mood regulation and functioning. They take and expose people to this game, and then they measure the responses that they get as far as how they correlate to substance use disorders and antisocial disorders and some PTSD disorders that people feel. So in this case, it's a little more controversial if I am speaking correctly on it, and please don't like do your own research on it, but I think they expose people who not only suffer from these disorders, but people who don't. And in some cases, with the people who don't, is they simulate an artificial environment for those same kind of feelings, and then they measure the brain's response on it. So, beyond the couch, games are accessible and can provide comfort anytime, especially for those who have a big distrust of formal types of therapy. So Beyond the Couch is, you don't have to go in and everything. There's 24/7 access to these therapeutic practices that I believe video games can give us. Um, it's a great type of practice for those of avoiding traditional types of therapy and like 12-step programs and whatnot. Games meet people where they are, in your basement, physically, like in your basement and in the comfort of your own home. What you're willing to accept, what you're willing to do, how you have more control about the types of situations that you're exposed to. And with the dopamine and everything that's released, and just practicing these techniques that video games help us practice. It's just a more accessible way of conceptually of being therapeutic for some people. Um, the role of community. So gaming communities can be like support groups. Many find purpose and connection through in-game teamwork. Multiplayer games create support networks, guilds and squads. They're like a social therapy, and platforms like Discord, they help extend the support. I don't know, come and listen to my podcast. um, what else do we have here? Cautions and considerations. Games aren't a cure-all. That's not what I'm saying. We need to monitor use and ensure that games are designed responsibly. If this is what we're talking about, a crossover or mesh of the actual, um, of this actually becoming something, um, games used for therapy, it's meant in the way that I'm speaking about it, it's meant to complement and not replace therapy. You have to monitor your gameplay for uh, um, potentially for addiction. Like any addiction, when done in excess, is life damaging. If you're sitting there and playing games instead of taking care of responsibilities to yourself or others, then it's just as bad as the addiction itself. And games, moving forward into this subject, games have to have mindful design. They have to, have these mindful designs. Um, so moving forward again, what the future holds. So future games will be smarter and more personalized. With AI and virtual reality, they're revolutionizing mental health tools. So personalized therapeutic games with AI. As AI gets to know us and everything and whatnot, it's they get to know what's bugging us. So you can only imagine that it's going to be a little bit more personalized. Collaboration between clinics and developers. So you can see that, like games like that kind of touched on it, was that Assassin's Creed, in the very beginning, they say, listen, this is an amalgamation of different types of theories and practices and everything. And when you could take clinicians who have the psychological aspects paramount, talking to game developers, and they're sitting there and they're like, hey, this can actually help. So the onset of affordable immersive VR. If this works, pixel therapy, if this actually can help somebody, why not make it affordable? So that's something that might come to fruition here, is that it's part of healthcare, you know, and you might see the explosion of gamified mental health apps. You're kind of already seeing that, where you've got these apps that can lead you down some coping mechanisms, and never, like I said, never a replacement for therapy, but just a tool, an aid for some therapy. moving forward. So there's a call to action. Let's support new tools, reduce the stigma of video games so much, and reach more people through the universal language of play. You know, we need to support research-based games more. Um, we have to challenge video game stigmata. Right now, like, people think of video games and people who play video games as lazy and whatnot. No, we're just not. We are just not. We're a thriving community. This is the future here we're talking about. So also need to promote therapy alternatives for resistant users, for people who have these disorders. Sometimes they're very resistant to the help that is provided by maybe somebody who is either out of touch or doesn't have any experience in it whatsoever. And I think video games is a way for somebody who feels a little out of control to have more control of their life and the way that they heal, their path to healing. Let's move on with this. So my closing thoughts. Uh, I found this quote, and I don't know if it's from a video game or if it's from somebody who was doing a study. It's just in passing, and when I read it, I didn't like really realize that it was just from a PTSD survivor. So, if it's truthful, if it's part of a video game or whatever, it makes it makes total sense. This is a quote that can make total sense in the fabric of it all. And this quote reminds us that healing can happen in very unexpected ways, even in virtual worlds. So the quote is, in the game world, I felt strong. I felt safe. I could make mistakes, learn, and still keep going. It, I've felt that way. I felt that way a lot. Questions and answer. Let's talk. Do you have questions, thoughts? Let's hear your thoughts. Any ideas, insights that you'd like to share, please do. For those of you watching on the YouTube channel, please, leave your comments and we'll address those. For those of us who are in Discord right now, nobody, of course, because this is the very first one, and I'm sure people, I only reached out to about 12 or 13 people, so they have their own lives. But hopefully this will catch on a little bit as more people realize what I'm trying to do here. And right now I've got it scheduled like a bi-weekly kind of thing on Discord, or you can watch the podcast here on YouTube and other platforms as this grows, as I learn and I develop more about these things. Really looking forward to diving into this. I know video games help me out a lot, and I want the world to have an awesome life the way that they want. Do no harm. All right, that being said, thank you very much for listening and watching, and you have yourself a wonderful day and a wonderful, beautiful, beautiful life.